Iran's entire air force, 400 planes, was neutralized before a single one of them could get off the ground. That's not an exaggeration. B-2 stealth bombers hit the runways first, so the F-14S and Phantoms were physically stuck. Then F-15Es and Navy cruise missiles just picked them off one by one because they had nowhere to go. What happens next is the part most people miss. The EA-18 Growlers moved in to kill the radar, and once the eyes were gone, the whole system collapsed from the top down. Let's take a look at exactly how that works. Here's the thing most people don't get. 400 aircraft sounds like a lot until you realize half of them can barely run. Iran's Air Force has F-14 Tomcats, F-4 Phantoms, Su-22s, F-5s. These are real jets with real combat histories. The F-14 shot down Iraqi planes in the 1980s. The F-4 Phantom flew combat missions in Vietnam. On paper, that's a serious collection of hardware. But paper doesn't fly. The problem goes back decades. When the US slapped sanctions on Iran, one of the biggest hits was to spare parts. Iran's F-14S were built by Grumman and sold to the Shah's government back in the 1970s. When the revolution happened and the US cut ties, Iran lost access to every American-made component overnight. So their mechanics started doing something called cannibalization. You take parts off one jet to keep another jet running. Do that long enough and you end up with a fleet where maybe half the planes are actually flyable on any given day. Engines go unmaintained. Avionics get outdated. The radar systems inside these jets are basically museum pieces at this point. So a lot of those 400 aircraft were already borderline non-operational before a single bomb dropped. That's not speculation. That's just what decades of sanctions and no upgrade path does to a fleet. What happens next, though, is actually kind of wild, because the B-2s didn't even need to chase the jets down. They hit the runways first. Think about it like this. You've got a car, but someone poured concrete in your driveway overnight. Doesn't matter how fast the car goes. It's not going anywhere. That's exactly what runway cratering does. A B-2 drops a precision munition into the middle of the tarmac, blows a hole in it, and now that $30 million fighter jet is stuck. It can't accelerate, it can't rotate, it can't take off. It's just sitting there. And here's why the B-2 was the right tool for that job specifically. Iranian radar couldn't see it coming. The B-2 has a radar cross-section about the size of a large bird. So there was no scramble, no warning, no time to disperse aircraft to backup airfields. The jets just sat in their hangars while the runways got torn apart around them. The B-2s didn't destroy an air force. They destroyed a parking lot. Once the runways were cratered, F-15Es and Navy cruise missiles came in right behind and started working through the grounded aircraft systematically. Base by base, aircraft type by aircraft type. A Tomcat that can't move is just a big aluminum target. Same with the Phantoms, same with the Su-22s. The cruise missiles don't care how legendary the jet is. If it's sitting still, it's done. And it wasn't just the jets. Shah drone storage facilities got hit in the same wave. Iran had been leaning on those drones heavily. They're cheap, they're effective, and they've been used in strikes across the region. Taking out those storage sites meant Iran couldn't just pivot and say, okay, forget the jets, we'll flood the area with Shaheds instead. That option was gone too. So Iran's fleet was already half dead from sanctions, and then the runways disappeared, and then the grounded jets got picked off one by one, and the drone backup got eliminated in the same breath. But the jets being stuck is only part of it, because Iran still had radar, still had missile systems, still had eyes on the sky. Here's why the Growler is probably the most underrated aircraft in this whole operation. It never drops a single bomb, but it might have done more damage than anything that did. Iran's air defense network runs on radar. That's the foundation of the whole thing. Surface-to-air missile systems, early warning stations, ground-controlled intercept, all of it only works if radar sees the threat coming first. You take the radar away and the entire system is just guessing. SAM crews can't shoot at what they can't see. Fighter controllers can't talk to pilots they've lost track of. The whole network stops functioning the second the radar goes dark. And here's the thing, even with runways cratered and jets burning on the ground, Iran still had SAM systems that could cause real problems. Mobile launchers that move around so they're hard to target. Hardened radar sites built specifically to survive an initial strike. These weren't nothing. They were the remaining teeth in the system, and follow-on strikes couldn't just ignore them. So that's where the EA-18 Growler comes in. The Growler is a modified F-18 that carries electronic warfare equipment instead of a standard weapons load. It jams radar frequencies so the signal gets scrambled and unusable. And it carries anti-radiation missiles. These are missiles that home in specifically on radar emissions. The moment an Iranian radar site switches on, the Growler detects the signal, locks onto it, and fires. In a matter of seconds, that radar site just became a target because it turned itself on. So Iranian radar operators were stuck with a choice that had no good answer. Turn the radar on and get a missile in the face immediately. Keep it off and be completely blind while American jets fly wherever they want. That decision loop is paralyzing because both options are bad and there's no third option. That sequence right there, that's what people mean when they say 4D chess in an air war. Runways go first, so nothing flies. Grounded jets get cleaned up by cruise missiles and F-15Es. Then Growlers roll in and kill the radar, so SAM systems can't target the follow-on aircraft. Each step creates the exact conditions the next step needs. It's not luck. It's a design sequence where every move opens the door for the one after it. Once the radar is gone, F-35s and F-15Es can operate over Iranian airspace without meaningful resistance. And anything that somehow survived the first wave. A Su-22 that got airborne from a secondary strip, a MiG variant that scrambled late. Those jets are now flying completely blind. No ground control talking to them. No situational awareness. No coordination with other aircraft. They're just up there alone. Here's why that's fatal for Iran's F-14s and F-4 Phantoms specifically. These are 1970s airframes running on cannibalized parts with no modern avionics. Against an F-35 that's sharing targeting data in real time with every other aircraft in the package, they were never going to get a shot off. The F-35 sensor fusion means every pilot in the formation sees exactly what every other pilot sees. One big shared picture. Iran had no equivalent to that, and then what little command and control they did have got actively jammed on top of it. Bye for now to Iranian air power as a regional threat. Not because individual jets got destroyed, but because the entire network that made those jets dangerous collapsed all at once. The whole thing works because each step feeds the next one. Runways go first so the jets can't move. Grounded jets get picked off by cruise missiles and F-15Es. Growlers kill the radar so SAMs go blind. And then what's left just falls apart because there's nothing holding it together anymore.